Hi, I'm Steve Rappaport. I'm the Knowledge Solutions Director of the Advertising Research Foundation and author of Listen First, Turning Social Media Conversations into Business Advantage. And today I'm talking with Jeni Chapman from Harris Interactive. And before we get going, I'd just like Jeni to introduce herself and tell you a little bit about her company.
Hey, great to be here today, thank you. I'm Jeni Chapman and I work for Harris Interactive. I'm the Executive Vice President of our Brand and Communications Division, and also our Innovations Group reports into me.
Okay. So Jeni, Harris is really doing some pioneering work in listening and listening research. What are some of the challenges and some of the opportunities that you're seeing as you're really adopting and bringing listening into what's oftentimes considered a pretty traditional research company?
I think, when I think about social media, I think what the goal is first. And just making clear what the goal is part of it. So the goal is, on the one hand, let's be honest, to sell more stuff. Right? As a marketing tool, it's about amplifying your message, creating engagement, and then it's also a CRM, a customer relationship management tool. So those are the ultimate goals. How do I, engage and make that experience better and do it in a cost-efficient way? And then the challenges are, however, that when people talk social media, it's not necessarily, there are two prongs, and you and I have discussed this before, that one of the prongs with social media is how to understand and use research to inform as an ROI tool. So if I'm using it to engage with my customers, how can I actually measure whether it's doing that? Is being exposed to that social media campaign not just driving a million hits, but is it changing attitudes towards the brand? Is that ultimately building that brand relationship? That's one of the challenges, I think, from a measurement perspective that we as more traditional companies should face. And the other is thinking of it just as an insight tool. It's allowing us to get those raw, unfiltered conversations of what people say, how they feel, and I think one of the innovations is not just understanding what's out there publicly, but really getting under and starting to understand what people are saying in their social networks with their friends and family, because I think there are some differences.
Yeah, I want to let's talk about that, because the way that social listening research is done, what is that you really can't identify who's doing the talking. Right? It's anonymous to a large degree, and yet marketers want to know who's doing the talking, right? How representative are they? Are these really the customers that matter to us, or are they just the people who talk the loudest? And so so the whole issue around representativeness and representative sampling is one that is a kind of steady undercurrent in people who do listening research. So do you have a point of view on that?
It really is. I think it's probably where can traditional, custom market research companies help and should be taking the lead in answering that question. Right. We basically used one of our core assets to start to address that, which is the Harris panel. Very well known. We invest quite a lot to make it representative. And what we've done is, for example, we did some, research on research about the Gap logo. Very well known. 5 days after it was launched, pulled it back because of the uproar in social media circles. We went in and looked at our database to see, was it their target market? And we found, actually, to your point, that it wasn't. It was an older consumer, which isn't their main target of today, or one wouldn't think is their main target of today. So we posed the question, maybe it was people who were passionate about the brand that was, even though they weren't the customer of today, they had been the customer of yesterday. So I think that's I think that's been one of the other challenges about adopting it. It's aggregate data, and you just don't know. Is it 100 people just being really, really active, or is it really 100,000 people? So that's what we've been focused on. I think one of by answering that question, we really are giving a tool to marketers that can enable social intelligence to be really integrated into all the research that they do. So allow that raw, unfiltered conversation in, and then understand the who behind the what. The who behind the post,
right.
And whether you should be listening and taking action, or just listening and using that for the next round of development, but you don't really have to respond to.
Yeah, because it's interesting, because in addition to the Gap, an example from a year or so ago was Tropicana, right? When they changed their packaging, right? And because the point that you're making, because what I looked into that, and what I learned was that is that they were doing listening, but they were listening to the wrong voices, right? And that's what you found with this gap, in a sense, is that, well, we don't know if they were fully the wrong voices, but we needed to know whose voices were they. It's so important.
Well, we did it for someone who just asked us a question. They weren't a client. They said, hey, you've got this new thing, and we've been hearing Coke Love It Light is, one of the distributors says, it's really picking up. It's being picked up in our social media. People are playing it back.
Yeah.
And we went and looked in our data, and there was not one single comment of Diet Coke Love It Light. There was lots of comments of love Coke, how they talk about their love with the brand and the product, but not one person was playing back the tagline. What they were really picking up was their own marketing.
Fascinating. That is something, because companies need to know that sometimes most of the buzz that they're generating is their own.
Yeah, it's like, oh, looking at my belly button.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's just it. But let's just take the discussion, move it a little bit further, and that is, okay, so we're doing new kinds of research, and we have new kinds of measures. We're relating them in ways, or we're using them in ways that for some people and some brands may be unfamiliar.
Right.
And so there might be, in situations like that, there might be some resistance to adopting or using this newer, more informed information. So what are some of the adoption hurdles that you've seen, and what are some of the ways that brands and companies can overcome them?
As a Trekkie fan, whenever I hear futile, I have to say resistance is futile. However, the brands that whether we want it to happen or not happening, the smartphone is going to change the way all of us shop, the way we communicate and talk with our family, how we communicate. We're already seeing it. People are spending less minutes talking, even not just on their phone, but even one-to-one talking.
Right.
And more time with that gadget, be it the iPad, whatever tablet of choice, or the smartphone. So, you can wait to get it 100% right, or you can take the 60% good enough and keep up with the marketplace, because things are, changing, rapidly, and with a referral economy where you have at your fingertips that information, and you can look at that reference that your friend just made about the product they just tried, that's going to impact the fact whether or not you're going to try it. That's just a reality that, as marketers, we're all going to have to be in tune with and connected to.
Right. And just final question: given that you're doing now this new type of representative listening, where do you see the new uses and applications coming for it? So what are the new applications, and what kinds of decisions can brands make now that they might not have been able to make without this information?
Well, on the one hand, ultimately what we're able to do is really help marketers understand how to influence their social media spend to have the best ROI. In terms of the different research tools that exist out there, think about being able to almost build this molecule into everything that you do. So from doing better qualitative and positioning work, to doing we have something we call brand life tracking, where it's allowing you to listen so you can understand what's the difference between ad spend versus how is that translating into real word of network. How is that translating into helping build that brand imagery? Are people using the words? What is the real consumer language? Also into the voice of the customer. I think that's going to be more and more as well, because again, how is it being used? Have people engage with my product more, or how they interact with the experience and give me feedback in an immediate way.
Jeni, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with us. I found your answers fascinating, and I'm sure everybody who's viewing this tape will do too.
Thank you.
You're welcome.